Alright guys, welcome back to Formula 1 News. Toto Wolff has revealed exactly what's going on right now behind the scenes at Mercedes, saying the progress on the W15 in the simulator looks very promising indeed. Whether the simulations are accurate after the issues Mercedes have had with that in the ground effect era so far, that remains to be seen, as does whether it's promising enough to potentially overhaul the progress that Red Bull might be looking to make over the winter. Very much interested to your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy, subscribe if you're new as always. Now firstly, we've got to close the loop on this guy. If you guys saw yesterday's video, and the day before, there was all this drama after the prize giving ceremony that this guy, and we'll see exactly who he might be in a second, had come away with Hamilton's trophy for third place. And I went into detail yesterday as to what I thought had happened here, and it turns out that seems to be pretty accurate. So this guy, I don't know how he got into this party or this gala in the first place. Maybe he's the son of somebody, maybe he snuck in, I don't know. There were some pictures, to be fair, of this guy going around, having been spotted. This is back in 2021 actually, in the Baku Grand Prix paddock with the safety cars. So I don't know if this guy just likes sneaking in places or whatever, because I'm pretty sure this is the same geezer, and a couple of years later he's now turning up to the prize giving gala in Baku. So I think he's local, and I guess that's why he somehow managed to attend. But we know the story about this. Hamilton's trophy had been left behind or had gone missing, and therefore people thought, oh well, Hamilton's got rid of it to send a message to the FIA. Mercedes then said no, that's not the case. Hamilton gave it to one of the FIA people, and they will then get it back to Mercedes, back to Brackley, or whatever the case might be. But that didn't happen, and then this guy, Nahad Nazirli, and we'll see in a second that he's now deactivated his Twitter account for whatever reason, remains unclear. But hello, I was at the gala yesterday, Hamilton gave me the award and left. I have the prize at home now, and he took other pictures of himself with the awards. The audacity on this guy is unbelievable, by the way, and we'll see why in a second. So then yesterday, the FIA gala source or whatever, somebody said that in fact it was handed over to an FIA official for safeguarding, and that Hamilton, as Mercedes stated, did not gift it to anybody in attendance. Now, this might have been the intention of all involved, but this doesn't seem to be what actually happened, because this guy is not an FIA official, and as of right now, he may still have the trophy, he may have given it back, he may be getting hunted down by the FIA mafia, I don't know, but as they go on to say, the exact whereabouts of the trophy are not currently known, but investigations are underway to figure out how the trophy became separated from the relevant parties. This is what I don't exactly understand, is how this guy got there in the first place and got into a position where he's up there with the drivers, taking pictures of the trophies. Like, I honestly, you've got to love it in some sense. Like, you've got to try things, and if you try things with enough confidence, apparently, you know, we know in reality they just tend to happen. So this guy comes out yesterday with a statement to explain the situation. People were then saying, oh, he must have nicked it, which, you know, in some sense he kind of did, but as he goes on to say, I'm very disappointed to see the messages written to me like a thief or something. First of all, I want to say I didn't steal anything from anywhere. This is just a misunderstanding. Lewis Hamilton put the award on the table. I asked him if I could take the prize. He said to me, yes, you can take the prize, and I thought he'd gifted me the award. But now, after seeing the statement from Mercedes, I understand that Lewis did not gift me the award. He mistakenly thought I was the FIA official in charge of the awards. And you can't blame Hamilton, I don't think. Imagine some guy in a suit, you know, comes up to you after the award show or whatever, right up there where, you know, all the important people, I suppose, are, and he comes up to you and says, hey, Lewis, can I have this award? Hamilton's going to think, oh, you know, it's one of the FIA guys that takes the trophy and gets it back to the team. He's not going to think that it's just this random guy with the sheer audacity to just ask Hamilton to please have his trophy as a gift and then just take it home. Like, I actually cannot believe what went through this guy's head. Admirable confidence to go up to Hamilton and just be like, can I have this? Like, do you want it, Lewis? I know you want it, but can I have it, please? And Hamilton's like, yeah, sure, thinking he's somebody else. And then your boy Nahad just says, oh, great, he gifted it to me. I'm going to take it home and enjoy my prize. Just unbelievable turn of events, and as he says, a misunderstanding, but a misunderstanding rooted in just outrageous confidence of this guy. And honestly, there's also questions like, how did he even get in? How was he allowed up there? Are there not questions about like the security and stuff? And you know that, you know, if you wear a hard hat or if you carry a clipboard, you can just walk into places and they won't bat an eye. But in this case, I don't really know how this guy even got in the first place. Now, yesterday, so these tweets came out, and thankfully there were some screenshots screenshots floating around, because today when I came to bring the tweet up, they've been deleted because his account has been deactivated. So as I say, I don't know if the mafia, the Matt FIA or whatever, are chasing your boy down and trying to get the trophy back, or exactly what's gone on. But yeah, everything's been deleted. We don't have any of those tweets anymore. We don't really know what the future here is going to hold, but such a remarkable timeline over the last few days. And I don't know if this is the last we're going to hear of this. This is all the update we have for now. Maybe at some point it's going to be found that Hamilton and Mercedes have the trophy back where it belongs, but it's been quite the entertaining saga over the last couple of days. Plenty else to talk about as well, though. There was just quickly from the FIA, really from Formula 1 themselves. On the Spanish Grand Prix, we know that, well, there's rumours they're intending to move the Barcelona race to Madrid from at least 2026 and onwards for like a 10-year deal. Another street track, you know the vibe. Now, the FIA say in Formula 1 have said, no, come on, guys, calm down. There's nothing to this yet, because it's not been, confirmed. There's no official a statement on it yet. We've not seen what the track is potentially going to look like officially, although we've seen some rumours which don't look particularly good. And this FIA guy says, we're just trying to bring the Olympics to Madrid due to leakage. This hasn't happened. I hope this isn't the case with the Madrid race. They're kind of saying, like, it's not a done deal yet. We're pushing for it. Whether you want or don't want that to happen, I guess, is another question. But speaking of Mercedes, they were also raising questions on a potential limit to the number of races that staff can actually attend. This was a big point raised by George Russell. I think in Abu Dhabi, it was a bit of a tough schedule at the end of the year for everybody involved. Next year, I think it's going to be even worse, because I think the last 3 races are like Las Vegas, Qatar, Abu Dhabi, something like that, and it's a triple header. So that's not necessarily a fun way for all involved to end their season after a very long and grueling one. But Russell said that the drivers have it the easiest. They turn up in their private jets or whatever, they fly in. Okay, they have to be there on the Thursday for media day, they get in the car and drive. But the other staff involved, setting things up from really the Monday, Tuesday onwards through the entire weekends, they're working flat out most of the time. And it gets a bit much for them to do 24 races. So sure, the drivers have got to go to every race, but they get paid the big bucks. A lot of the staff, they're flying business if they're really lucky, if not just economy, all across the world to go to these races. So that's the discussion from Mercedes, that what about if you limited teams to only enable their staff to attend 20 races? So there'll have to be some sort of turnover. It would also mean, right, that let's say, Bono or whatever wouldn't be able to be at all 24 with Hamilton, and GP wouldn't be able to be at all 24 with Max. So they'd have to do some sort of exchange of race engineers if this was to be the case. Teams might be able to find good ways to do this, and it might add some competitive advantage if you can manage this whole situation well. So I don't know if that will be a rule, but given the way things are, I think that it would be understandable. And even Toto Wolff and Christian Horner have said that attending every race from now on every season, given the number of them, just isn't really a good idea for many parties. And whether they actually come up with a rule to enforce that is another question entirely. But next year's Mercedes is raising a lot of questions at the moment. Can they compete with the RB20 if the RB20 is going to be a complete overhaul, as we kind of expect, which could be a big step forward, or it could be a mistake from Adrian Newey, but that seems rather doubtful. So James Allison as well comments on the 2024 car concept and says they're really not looking at what the Red Bull guys are doing. Look, I'm sure they are to some degree, but you can't just copy the Red Bull, because you're going to be so many steps behind at this point what Red Bull are trying to do going forwards. So Hamilton, we saw a couple of comments from him the other day during the prize giving gala, after which this trophy, well, we talked about that a couple of minutes ago, talking about that he had full faith in the team and was confident after what he saw in the wind tunnel, said it was fascinating and all this stuff, what was going on back there. But Toto Wolff was also doubled down on these statements, and look, he made it clear a few days ago now, I think after Abu Dhabi, that basically every single part of the car is going to change. Different chassis, different aero, entirely different characteristics. They're building a brand new car from the ground up, Mercedes, with seemingly the greater understanding they now have of this set of regulations. And it goes on to say that the stopwatch never lies. We'll see you next year in Bahrain. For the last couple of years, Bahrain has told them basically everything they've needed to know about the fact that their car is not going to be there. And I do wonder, look, Hamilton has full faith in the team and everything to make a winning car. Are we going to be next year in June, July, and Toto Wolff's on the radio being like, look, sorry, Lewis, I know the car's bad, but just please drive it. Or, being on the radio saying, oh, Lewis, you're fastest man on track in Sector 1. Let's keep pushing type thing, as we've seen for the last couple of years. So he then goes to say, different chassis, different aero, different characteristics, different suspension, which is obviously another key point, the understanding of the way that Red Bull set up their rear and certainly front suspension, the anti-dive, the anti-squat characteristics that make it slightly more challenging for the warm-up phases, but after that the car is just serene. So there's obviously many advantages to that, but no team really took it as far as Red Bull and Adrian Newey's team did. Everything that we can change, we're going to change. So, and as they've said before, this is all they can really try. They've got to try everything. Like, they've got to pull out all the stops and not carry anything over from last year's car, because if they try to, it probably won't be enough. They have to go all in, and if it works, it might work spectacularly and they might be able to win the championship. If it doesn't work, then they're going to have a long 2024-2025. Now, Toto Wolff then goes on to say, so far, the results in the wind tunnel or in the virtual world, let's say in the simulations, are positive, but we need to be careful in terms of managing our expectations. Toto Wolff is always generally on the more pessimistic side, which I think is generally wise. We do need such a step in order to catch up to fight for the championship. So the results so far in the virtual world are positive. Now the question is, there's twofold really. Are the virtual world's analytics correct now? This was the big problem Mercedes had for the last couple of seasons. The Red Bull didn't seem to really suffer with. And every time Mercedes said, oh, the simulations are fixed, they now correlate perfectly, the next weekend they'd have a bad race and they'd be like, actually, hang on a second, we've got more to learn here. They did this after Spain, I think. It was Spain 2022 when they brought the upgrade that stopped the porpoising and they said, oh, we're fixed. It's beautiful. And then they did Monaco and Baku and it was terrible again. And they were like, all right, we don't really fully understand this yet. And even this season, there were talks that, well, the simulations don't fully match up to what the car is doing in reality. But then shortly after that, we hear rumours that, no, they've solved it and it all correlates perfectly now and it's no problem at all. So assuming they have, and the wind tunnel data, the simulation data, and the actual reality of the situation are going to be the same, then sure, but let's not forget, they thought that zero-pod Mercedes was going to be a second a lap faster when they introduced that in 2022, and all the talk was behind the scenes of Mercedes, we've got a rocket ship here, nobody's going to compete with us, all this. They turn up to the track, and it just didn't work at the ride heights they'd planned in the simulations. So, you know, assuming they fix that problem, then sure, virtual world positivity from Mercedes. But it's always tough to say, if you're Mercedes, how positive is this degree of positivity? Have they gained a massive step, which probably they have, but is that going to be enough if Red Bull are taking another massive step, if Ferrari are taking a big step, if McLaren, who seem very confident right now, it's got to be said, last season it was Aston Martin that were all the rage during the off-season, right? You guys probably remember the winter break last season, there were constant rumours coming out of Aston Martin, more so towards the new year really, once the car was really being built and finalised and stuff like this, and they were basically saying, yeah, we've nailed it, our car's unbelievable, it's going to be so much faster and different and all this, and people are like, are you sure, Aston? Like, what are you talking about? They turned up at the start of the season and it went rather well. Right now, I'd say that mainly the most optimistic team, apart from Red Bull, of course, are probably McLaren as it stands. Ferrari are always optimistic. You guys know how it is with Ferrari. The unprecedented in terms of speed SF23 that arrived onto the grid this year. But Norris has said that he thinks 100% he's going to get a race win next year, which is, and typically Norris is very pessimistic as well. So maybe he's seemingly very confident that they can potentially challenge next season. So it all depends on what the competitors do, of course. And Toto Wolff went on to say at the prize giving gala the other day that, it's the days that they lose that the competitors go on to regret, because it's the days that they learn the most. Christian Horner, though, we know that these two have a funny relationship, says that to Toto Wolff, like, look, I was in his position for some time, being second, third best for a long time, struggling to get back to the top, and it's a totally different challenge to be, being at the top of the field than to striving to get back there. Horner's done both. Toto Wolff, hasn't had to do too much in the last few years of being the second, the third best to try and motivate the team to get back to the top, because definitely a different challenge. Horner has seen both sides of that, and at Mercedes there's been a rebuild certainly behind the scenes to try and make that happen, but they will need a significant step. Thought this is kind of crazy. Average finishing positions 2023, Verstappen at a 1.3. So I mean look at this really. Perez at a 4.5, then Leclerc, then Hamilton basically tied. Interesting that Leclerc was quite a way behind Hamilton really in the championship, but had a higher average finishing position. Of course, in large part because he didn't finish, unfortunately, that many races with the DNFs, the DSQs, all this stuff. Alonso had a 5.6, then Sainz, Russell, Norris, Ocon, Stroll, actually. But Perez 4.5 is not great, it's got to be said, given where Max was. And actually, Checo has been getting, the pressure's getting piled on. Of course, for good reason, but as Horner says, Checo's just got to sort his Saturdays out. We need him to be starting in the first 4 rather than 9th or 10th. But the problem is, and even Alex Albon talked about this in a recent, was it the High Performance podcast or something with Jake Humphries or whatever it is? He talked about this and said that when he was in the Red Bull, Max was like, P3, P4, and he was a few tenths off Max, but that would put him P12. Whereas right now, Checo might be 3 tenths off Max, 4 tenths off Max, but that's putting him, maybe P6, P7 on a good day when he's not getting out in Q1 when Max is P1 in quali. So it's like, 3 tenths of a gap can be a big deal if you're in a midfield-ish car or like an upper midfield car. If you're in the best car ever, then 3 tenths actually still puts you in a reasonably competitive position. But this is the issue for Red Bull next year, is that if Checo again is a few tenths off Max, and if the competition is closer as it should be, we don't know if it will be. We thought this last year and it didn't happen. So, I'm definitely going to wait and see what happens come March. But if the grid is closer, then it's going to look even worse for Perez, assuming that the car characteristics are the same as what they were last year, that Max was very happy with, and Perez was not necessarily. Then, of course, that leads into the possibility of the rumoured mid-season replacement. There's talks going around that Ricciardo has a contract clause that says he can replace Perez and get his contract tripled if the time comes. And Ricciardo makes it quite clear that AlphaTauri, not a junior team, we're trying to see real results and try and prove that reality on the track. But very much intrigued to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.